Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Shari Oswald. Welcome to Microsoft Forms. It doesn't take a monkey to use it. Hopefully you've been enjoying the sessions that you've been attending today at the event. We're going to dive right in. The odd thing about the live meetings is there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll try and keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer, and I'll see if I can address those as we go along, or we can do it at the end. So again, thanks for joining me. We're going to be doing Microsoft Forms. It doesn't take a monkey to use it. Kind of a little play on words with SurveyMonkey. And if you have ever had to gather information from people within your organization, Microsoft Forms is the tool of choice. It's very simple to use, and hopefully I can show you some tips and tricks that will help you to use it more efficiently. This is the third time I've actually done this session. It's been very popular in the speaking arena. Okay, so thank you to our sponsors. These events do not happen without our sponsors, so be sure to visit them in the virtual rooms. Hopefully next year we'll all be together and you can see them in person, but they have amazing products and offerings, and always show your support, because without them, we would not be having these events, so thank you. All right, a little bit about me. I'm Shari Oswald. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, a Microsoft Office Specialist Master, and they call me Shortcut Shari. It started out as kind of a joke from a student, and it stuck, but it is now my Twitter, it's my Facebook, it's my blog, it's my email. So feel free to reach out to me, and I'll put this slide up at the end again as well. The hardest thing to remember is how to spell my name. It's S-H-A-R-I. There's lots of ways to spell Shari, but my joke is that I answer to any spelling, but the internet isn't quite as forgiving as that. So. All right, I'm also a LinkedIn Learning instructor. So if you'd like to get a free trial of LinkedIn Learning, you can check out the bit.ly that's there, bit.ly/ and then this is case sensitive, LIL and shortcut Shari, shortcut Shari. That will get you a free trial. I have 4 courses around SharePoint, including communication site and managing projects, and tips and tricks, advanced tricks for administrators. So if you're interested in that, check those out. All right, I'd love for you to play along with me. Hopefully you have your phone out, because you've been putting in your session evaluation. So grab it one more time. I will put this back up again. I grabbed this from the form that I'm going to be creating, and I would love to see some feedback from some of you to be able to play along and see the result of what we ask you for at the end of the session. So I'll put this back up at the end, but if you want to grab it right now, go ahead, and then we'll go ahead and dive into our form. All right. I'm going to switch screens. I have a demo environment all queued up here that we can use to work on Microsoft Forms. And this is my fictitious environment, of course, that we're familiar with, called Contoso. I have a form started already just so I could capture that QR code and share it with you. But when you arrive at Microsoft Forms, you're going to access it from the waffle button. The app launcher is the technical term, but we lovingly call it the waffle. If you don't see it in the initial offerings for your apps, click the little All Apps button. And then these are alphabetical, so you should see it here somewhere along the way. You can also pin these to the launcher if you think this is a tool that you're going to use more often, and then it will be on your easy access and your apps in the launcher. Okay, so to create a new form, very simple. At the top, you have the option for a new form. I'm going to click the drop down here. You have an option for a new form or new quiz, and I'll talk about the difference between those. When you click new form, it's going to take you to a new form window. and you kind of give it a title and then a description. The descriptions are really helpful to give directions to people so that when they are filling out the form, you can give them a little bit more information than maybe what the title or the question is. So I encourage you to do that. So that's what I did first. I'm going to go back to the form that I already created because I grabbed the QR code from there. So we're just going to start with the form that I already had. So here's the travel request. And here is the description that I added to it. So now we're going to start adding questions to the form. And so I'm going to click New here. And you have options for different types of information that you can gather. The first one is a choice. So that's a checkbox or a radio button. So they can choose either one selection or multiple selection. You have text, which will let you capture either short amounts of text or descriptions. You have ratings, which allow you to let people select yes or no, good or bad, and you can customize those a little bit. You have dates, so you can capture a date value from them. And then if you click the little drop down, you get more options. So if you have a ranking, for example, you give them several choices and they can rank them from highest to lowest. A Likert scale, if you look at the preview that flies over on the right-hand side, this is those little dot grids that you see on a lot of surveys that say, on a scale of 1 to 5, rate these things, and then you ask them several questions and they fill in the little dots. So we're going to go through each of these, but I want you to know that there's several options to choose from. You can also allow them to upload a file. So for example, in a travel request, you might want them to upload a copy of their approved traveler or global entry or one of those types of credentials that they use when they travel. These I have never used. The Net Promoter Score, I've never used that myself. And then there's sections. Now, I really like to use sections to break the form up, and it gives it kind of a wizard feel. So I'm going to start right now with a section, and I'm going to say, tell us about you. So I'm going to say, tell us about you. And then if in the description, please provide about your travel file. Right, so I'm going to add a new question here and give them the option to put in their name. So I'm going to add a text option for that. Now, when you select a question, you're going to get a toolbar at the top that lets you copy your question, delete the question, and then if you have multiple questions already, you can move those questions up and down to reorder them. You also have you can put a little picture or media next to it if you prefer. And then at the bottom, this is how you determine what type of information you're going to gather from them. So text, the way it stands right now, that field is about 255 characters long. If you would like to give them more of a survey answer or survey response, then you might want to change that to a long answer. And these are just toggles. So you turn them on, you turn them off. You can also make it required. And then always hit the little dot, 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 because it gives you additional options here. I am going to give you your first trick. The first one is to use the subtitle. And I do this for a reason. When you export this out, if you want to export this out to Excel, the question becomes the title or the first column in the Excel spreadsheet. And therefore, if you put the entire question in that first survey, then your spreadsheet, when you export it, each one of those columns is going to be huge. So it might be a long question, but the answers might be yes or no. So that's not really helpful when you're trying to consume that data and maybe create a report around it. So I would encourage you to use the subtitle. So I'm just going to put in traveler name. Oops, helps. Notice that it's giving me a spelling error. So I'm going to fix that, traveler name. And then in the subtitle, give the directions or the more detailed question. So please enter your name. And then make that required because, of course, we can't book travel if we don't have their name. All right, so one of the reasons you might want to do this is it does capture the person who has requested the travel if they're within your organization. If they're not within your organization, you cannot capture their name. So this might be something you put as a standard, make sure it's required. All right, then I'm going to click Add New. And maybe I ask them their preferred hotel chain. So I'm going to do this one as a ranking. So hotel preference. And I'm going to add the full question. So please order the following hotel chains by order of preference. And then give them the options. So I'll put several options here. Hilton. Right. And let's see if we have any, it's giving me some prompts here. So as you start using forms, it tries to teach you a little bit as you're working on it. So branching as a new home, try it out. And that actually caught me off guard in the last presentation that I did because branching was in a different area. So I'm going to go ahead and put got it there. And so again, here's my only options for the ranking is to add a subtitle or add branching. All right, so we're going to talk about branching here in a second. So I'll do the same thing for the airline. So I'm going to do ranking again. Preferred, oops, I'm going to trash that one. I needed the ranking. There we go. Preferred hotel or airline. Enter your preferred or rank your preferred airline. And I would put in United, Delta, or is it, I'm going to misspell it, I'm sure. Lufthansa, I believe, is the German. We spent 32 days in Europe and I spent 8 days in Germany and absolutely loved it. All right, so I'm going to make this required as well. Now I'm going to add a new section. So add new this time, add a new section, and you'll see when you start to fill this out how these sections break up the form into kind of a wizard format, but also gives you the ability to skip the questions sections if you need to. So I'm going to go ahead. So if let's say they don't need an airline or they don't need a hotel for their stay, they can actually skip that. So I'm going to put in here air travel and provide air travel details. And then add a new question. This one I'm going to make this a choice and ask them air travel booking. And notice I did not keep my setting. Once you change to a new section, it doesn't keep your settings. In the same section it does. So they're no longer required and my subtitle is missing. So I need to add that again. And do you require air travel accommodation? And my option is going to be yes. And notice how it's starting to prompt me at the bottom with a suggested other option, which is kind of nice. So yes or no. And you can add an other option. This is going to be a branching question. So if they answer yes, they're going to fill out the air travel details. If not, they're going to answer. If they answer no, they're going to go to the hotel travel details. So I'm just going to leave that and not add the other option in here. And I'm not going to allow them to add multiple answers. And if you click at the other options, we have it can be a drop down instead of a radio button. You can have it shuffle the questions, or each time somebody answers the form, it will shuffle the options so that it doesn't look the same if they have to fill it out more than once. And that's really helpful when you do the quizzes if you needed to, or we have branching options as well. So I'm just going to leave this as is, and then I'm going to add a new section. Now the branching gets a little bit tricky because in order to go somewhere using the branching, you actually have to have that somewhere already created. So I add the branching at the end. I don't do it as I'm actually building the form because I have to give all the destinations based on the answers to their questions. So I'm going to add a new section here. So air travel details, and please provide details about your air travel. And I'm going to start building a couple of questions here. So the questions I want to ask them is, what date are they departing? What date are they are returning? And also if they have any, what their aisle preferences, if their seating preferences. So this might be some of the things that you might want to gather. All right, so we're going to make these the first one's going to be the date. So departure date. And I need to make that required. And additional options here, again, are subtitle or branching. Please provide the date of your departure. Just going to add the arrival date or return date. Now, I'm going to do this. Instead of redoing that, this is a very similar question. So I might use the departure date as an option to copy that question and then just tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to copy the question. I get a duplicate. See, I have departure date here. Now I'm going to change this to return date and just change the text here. It kind of speeds up creating your form. And we're going to add one more question for seat preference. So I'm going to give them a choice. Seating is your seating preference. And let's give them the aisle, the window, or this time I'm going to say add an other option. That way they can write in something that maybe I didn't provide. And maybe they don't have a particular preference, so I'm going to let them answer multiple answers here. Maybe they like the emergency exit row or the bulkhead row or something. All right, you can't always anticipate everything somebody might answer to that question. You might want to give them the other option. And again, we have our shuffle options. So if this again were a quiz, you could have it would reorder them each time somebody answered that question. All right, so I'm going to add a new option here for a section, and hotel accommodations. Please provide hotel accommodations information, and add that question that will allow them to branch from here. So I'm going to click Add New, and again, give them the choice. Do you require hotel accommodations? And give them, because I previously asked a yes or no question, it's giving me suggested options. So I can add all of these or one at a time and make that required. All right, now we're going to add the next section for hotel details. And maybe if they need to have more than one hotel, you might want to add different sections. For the consideration of time at this point, I'm not going to go ahead and add all of those, but you could if you needed to. All right, so I'm going to add another one here and give them a rating option. What is the minimum star rating you prefer for your hotels? And going to give them, they have 5 levels. So notice that they're stars. You can choose what symbol you prefer. So you can say it could be a number or it could be a star if you like here. So we might add that in there and add new. This time I'm going to do one of the Likert options and ask them, again, add the subtitle. And we're going to put in the question for how important are some of the amenities they might be looking for. Amenities, please provide the importance for the following amenities for your stay. And I might want high-speed internet. That's a big one for me. I'm always working on the road. Hot breakfast, free parking, and let's say smoking rooms. And then you're going to give them the options for the ranking highest to lowest. Sometimes that's a good idea to put that in your instructions to let them know what is high and what is low. All right, so not important to very important. This might be somewhat important and preferred and neutral. All right, make that required as well. So they can give us their feedback on what they would like to have within their hotel. Now, some of our options here, again, you only have the subtitle or branching for the Likert scale. All right, so now we're going to do one final section. And additional information. Please provide comments as needed. And this time we're going to add again a text question and give them the option for a long answer and make it not required. Okay, so I need the subtitle on this again to make sure I can ask my question. Please provide any additional. Boy, I can't type today. It's because y'all are watching me. Comments or questions regarding your trip. All right, and so I've built my questionnaire out. Again, they may or may not want air travel. They may or may not want hotel travel. So now I need to add the branching in to allow them to skip those sections if they don't apply. So these, we're going to go down to the branching here. So air travel. Do you require air travel booking? If they say yes. So I'm just going to select the question and then click the More Options button and add branching. You just have to go into the branching window once, and then from that point on, it gives you all of the questions that you can branch from. So here we have air travel. Do you require air travel for accommodations? If they say yes, I want them to go to the air travel details section. If they say no, then I want them to go to the hotel accommodations. All right, so we're going to ask for the details on here and their seating. Now, some things you might want to watch. If you allow them to skip a section, you may want to remove the required off of those questions because otherwise they won't be able to submit their form. All right, so under hotel accommodations, if they answer yes, then I want them to go to the next section, which is the hotel details, or if they say no, I want them to go to the additional information. All right, and nothing here determines where else they go from there, so go to the next section. All right, you notice I never have hit save through this entire thing. I haven't hit any save button at all. It automatically saves as you're working. Again, always hit the little dots. If you realize that you really messed up all of the branching and you just want to start over because you got yourself all confused, can you tell I've done that? You might want to hit the reset and it'll remove it for you. After you're done, just click the back button here at the top and it'll take you back to your form. Now, as you're working, you might periodically use the preview option so that you can see what it looks like. And it gives you a preview of what it's going to look like on your computer, or you can look at it and see what it's going to look like on a mobile device like a phone. So here's the mobile device view of the form. So tell us about you, name, and your hotel preferences, and see how it clicks next. That's because we broke it up into sections, or that if that helps connect the dots there for you as to why I do that. All right, if you go back, you can edit the form just by scrolling down. So because I'm allowing them to skip certain sections, I might want to go back and take off the required on those details if they are not going. So hopefully they fill it out, knowing that I can't book your plane or your hotel unless you give me the details on that. So you can take those off. So I'm going to remove those so when you go back in, that you won't have to fill it out. Also, on this one, I skipped the subtitle. It's like, oh, oops, maybe I need to look at that. After reviewing it, I realized I didn't put the subtitle on this one, and I should have put this here and put in the star rating, hotel rating. Right. And labels are another option in here if you need to. So if you want to label this, so you tell them what the 1-star versus the 5-star is. This is going to be low or high. You might want to let them know this is, an example of a hotel in a, 1-star might be a Motel 6 or something, and your 5-star is going to be like your Hiltons and those type. All right, so again, I'm going to make this one not required again so that we don't get anybody hung up. Okay, so I've saved the form. Again, you preview it, and then I'm going to go ahead and publish it for you. So if you would, I'm going to take you back to the QR code. I'm hoping some of you will fill it out, and then we'll show you how to make it pretty. Okay, so let me go up one. So if you would, go ahead and capture that. I'm going to, do I have my phone? I had my phone. Don't know what to do with my phone. All right, so go ahead and fill that out. I will use the web form and fill it out myself, but I'll give you a second to capture that. Hopefully you are here and able to fill it out for me, but otherwise I'm going to go ahead and fill it out myself. So I can see the responses. We don't have any yet, so I'm going to preview, add my name, choose my hotel preference as Marriott, Hilton. Actually, these are exactly my preferences, so I put them in there. Let's say I prefer Lufthansa, and oops, I can change the ranking on those, then click next. Air travel details, you require air travel booking. I will say yes and click next. My departure date, hopefully will be next year sometime. I sure miss traveling. My return date will be, let's go to here. I want to stay there for a while. And I prefer the window. Do you require hotel accommodations? Yes, please. And my ratings and high-speed internet's important. Preferred. Don't care about parking. And this is a strong preference, so I'm going to click that. And would like to know about rental cars. Click submit. All right, my response is submitted. I have the option to submit another response if I needed to. Now, if I click the back button and look at the responses, you can see that here are the responses for my form. Pretty cool. It gives us little charts that we can use to visually see what the responses look like, and you can open that in Excel. Now, this is a very basic kind of bland looking form. Might be something we want to zhuzh up a little bit. So if you do, you can use the theme option in the upper right hand corner and choose one of the standard themes that they have here. So let's say I want to use this fun little travel one, or if I'm doing something for an event, maybe I want to use the confetti. You can pick one there, or if you would like, you can pick just a color scheme and it will change your color for you. And finally, at the bottom, you can choose the plus sign. This allows you to customize the exact theme. So if you have a branded color that you're using for your company, you might want to use that color. And you can also do a search for a Bing image to put in the background, or OneDrive if you have one in OneDrive, or you can upload a file. So let's do a Bing search. I'm going to search for airplanes. And maybe I use something fun like this. There we go. Click and add. It's adding it to my form. And now if I preview it again, notice I have the background in the background. So you could use something that's branded for your company and make it look like it's more you. So use the themes to customize that if you like. Okay, other options. I'm going to click the little dot, dot, dot right here, and you have several settings available to you. If you select the settings, you can choose who can fill this form out. Now, the one thing that you need to understand about forms, you get a really good idea from the URL of the form of where it lives. So if you were to look in the same environment, if I were to go out to, for example, SharePoint, which is internal in Office 365, notice the URL of this is my demo environment, and here is the SharePoint.com. So this is inside SharePoint.com. Sometimes you see different URLs. When you see the formsfirst.office.com, that lets you know it's still secured in your environment. However, it's kind of outside the little firewall, if you want to think of it that way. So it allows you to gather information from people that are not necessarily in your organization. So that's why I have the option here. Anyone with a link can respond, or only people in my organization can respond. And right now the default is only people in my organization, and it allows me to record the name because they have to be signed in. I'm signed in here as Adele Vance, so it's going to capture that information as Adele. If I put in anyone with the link can respond, then it will allow you to respond to that form. So that could be why I don't have any responses other than mine. So if you would, go ahead and maybe try again if you were trying to fill out the form and it didn't work before. Right. You can also accept the responses within your options. Accept responses now or later. You can turn it off. You can set a starting and an end date. So maybe you're gathering, your reservations for your holiday parties that's coming up, and you have a deadline for when you have to have those completed. So you can set a start date and an end date if you needed to. I like the little progress bar because this is another thing that the sections provide for you. The sections, as they're progressing through their questionnaire, or their form, they will see the progress. I like that personally because it's like, is this the never ending form or what? So it's kind of nice to know where you're at in the process. So that's a good one. You can also customize the thank you message and let them know that their response has been submitted. So give them an expectation, thank you for submitting your request. It will be reviewed within 3 business days. All right. And then you can send an email to the respondents if it depends on All of these settings depend on what you select up here. All right, so get an email notification of each response, and that will send that response to me. All right, so if I save those settings now, I'm going to go back and add another response again and put in my name. And these are, I'm going to put Sheridan at the bottom, even though I like the Sheridan. Love stanza at the top. Notice that I have the progress bar here at the bottom. It says page 1 of 6. Next, do I require air travel booking? This time I'm going to say no and click next. Do you require hotel accommodations? I can say yes. It will ask me for my details again. And I want at least a 3-star. And notice my 5 of 6 and click next. And thank you, and hit submit. And it says here is that customized message. Thank you for submitting your request. It will be reviewed within 3 business days. So it changes the experience. Again, you can also see the way it would look on a phone. So I'm going to go ahead and click back. Other settings in here that you have available to you. You want to make sure that you go into the multilingual. This allows you to set multiple languages. That is really important, I think, for international companies to be able to add a different language, and it will translate it for you. If you'd like to get a printed version of the form, it will give you what a preview of that form would look like. Of course, it's kind of bland and boring, but if you needed to, you could. It doesn't have the neat background and all of that in there. Okay, and you can also give feedback. So this is the user voice that Microsoft loves for us to, give our suggestions. That's how they develop the products for us, and let them know what you liked or what you wish it would do, and then any terms. All right, so our form is done, and I now want to share it with other people and give them the opportunity to respond to the form. So I'm going to click the share button. And I have options at the top. Anyone with the link can respond, or only people in my organization can respond. And then based on what you select here, you can copy this link and email it out. So this link is great. It's on my clipboard. I'm just going to show you. If you haven't used Window V, that's one of my favorite shortcuts. It's the collect and paste for your clipboard. So here's that form response link. Now I like to create bit.lys out of these because they're kind of long and ugly and encoded because of this selection that I made here. So double check and make sure that you have that captured, and then you can paste it into a bit.ly, or you can put it on a website or something like that. So this is a hyperlink. You can also create the QR code, which is what I did earlier. So here's the travel request QR code, and you can right click and save this image, or you can download the image and save it to your computer. So this ended up in my downloads folder. So here are those folders right here. And then I put that in the PowerPoint. This is something you can put anywhere. You can put it on a website, you can put it on a form, you can put it on a brochure, whatever you need it for. You can also use the embed code. So the embed code gives you an iframe, and this can go on any website. So any web page, or in a Microsoft Sway, if you needed it, you could put it in there. Or you can get the email, and it will, if you want to email it out, it would try and launch your default email client and allow you to go and put that into an email. So different options. Other things that you can do, you can share this as a template. So if somebody likes your form and wants to be able to reuse it, you can get a link for that person to duplicate your form, because anyone who answers this form is going to end up in my little database in the background. And I don't necessarily want all their stuff mixed in with mine. So you can give them a link so that they can use the form themselves, or if you want to share to collaborate. So if you're working on a form or a survey or a quiz, you might want to share it with a colleague so that they can collaborate on it with you and help you build the form out, so you're not doing all the work yourself. This is actually a really good idea, because when you create a form under your profile, you have it and you win the lottery and run away, somebody else can't get into that form and edit it. So sometimes it's a good idea just as a backup. If you have Forms Pro, you can actually create group forms, which are tied to a Microsoft team, for example, and then anyone within that team would be able to manage the form for you. All right, so we have different ways that we can share and collect those responses. Now, you can also, if you're working in Microsoft Teams, so I'm just going to go to Teams here, and maybe I'm using that form within my Microsoft Teams. And it's taking a second here. So here's the US sales. I'm going to add a tab to the top, and under forms, do I have a form, create a form that your team can see and see the results. So this would be a shared form within your team, or add an existing form. So here are my forms that I currently have. This is the travel request form, which is considered personal, meaning that I'm the one that created it. And then what mode do you want to display that in? Do you want it to be in the collect responses mode or the show results mode? So I'm going to click the collect responses mode and click save. And if I click the plus sign again, and let's show what it looks like when we add the form in the show results mode. Okay, so here is the fill in. So you can just put it on a tab and have them fill it out right from Teams. Or if you want to see the results, you can show them what the results of that form might be. So pretty cool ways to share that. All right, so I'm going to kind of introduce you to another option, and this is I tried to incorporate this in previous session, realized it was way too much to put into one 50-minute session, but I want to kind of give you some other ideas. These responses are great. When I go into responses, I have the option to open this in Excel. So the Excel spreadsheet downloads into my downloads folder, and this is what it would look like. So here is the ID, so it creates a unique number for each of the responses, what time that person started, what time that person completed. When I had this set to capture only people within my organization, it did capture the email of who submitted it. Otherwise, it came in as anonymous, and it does not record the name. This is the information that I captured from the form, my hotel preferences. So notice that the layout that this information comes out in. Air travel booking, yes or no. Very important, preferred, not important. Now, why is this important to understand how this comes out in Excel? Because you can take this to the next level. I'm going to enable editing here and just select the fields. So, and by default, how the information comes out of the form into Excel. This is really helpful to know if you're going to take the next step. So this is a date format. This one is a text format when it comes in under general. This is, all of these are pretty much text format except the dates. And the rankings came in, the Likert scale came in as important, very important, preferred, not important. Do you see how those come in? Okay, so these I would like to, instead of having to export an Excel spreadsheet, maybe I want to capture this information into a list, a Microsoft list, which is, spoiler alert, a SharePoint list because it's stored in SharePoint. So there is some options. If I go back to Teams, let's say here I want to capture that information into a list. If you click the plus sign, add the list, there's actually a travel request. Let's see, format. So I'm going to create a list. Here's the travel request, which is just a standard option. I'm going to use the template. Please submit travel requests. And we're going to use this and click create. I've just created a form, a list, which is the Microsoft list, which doesn't actually match the information that is in my form. Right now, it says reason for travel, who's the requester, it asks for the destination. So if you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should have asked where they were going, or maybe I should have asked what they were doing there. You might want to, based on how you're trying to capture that information, do reporting, you may have to go back in and edit your list to make it, or your form to make it match the destination of the list. But what's important to know about this, I'm going to go into the SharePoint site that is behind the scenes in this, for this list. And probably the easiest way to go is back to the files and then open in SharePoint. And look at the contents of the site. Here's my travel request list. I'm just going to look at the settings of this list. And here are the default questions that were asked and the data types. This is really important because if I want to map this to a SharePoint list, then I need to know what those destination data types are. Either A, so I can build my form so that the data types are matching to the list, or B, that I know that through Power Automate, I'm going to have to do some data transformation to ensure that that data comes across the same way. So again, I'm just trying to introduce a concept for you. I don't obviously in 5 minutes have the ability to ask you for the details and show you how to do this, but just think about it. I'm going to probably do another session or submission for something like this. All right, so here is the destination form or destination list that I would want that form to feed into. So I need to make sure those match. And then using Power Automate. Power Automate actually has a template. Boy, it's a little slow. Here's the templates. And search for a template for forms. And the very first one that comes up, record a form response in SharePoint. So it's going to have you authenticate your account. There it goes. So I authenticated both the accounts. Click continue. And because I created the form and I own the form, and because I'm an owner in that team, I can select those. So I'm going to pick my form, which is the travel request. Where's my output list? Here's the form ID. Where is the site that you wanted to use? So this, if I don't see the one that I think I should be seeing, so that one was in my, I navigated away. So let me just go back real quick. Back to SharePoint, which is not on there. And it should be in the sales group. Okay, let's go back to Teams then. And go back the other way. There's always a back door. Okay, and we'll go to my sites from here, open in SharePoint. So here's my site, US Sales. So if you don't see that one, you can just copy the URL and paste it here up into the site root. As soon as you see the forms, that now you're starting getting into the views of your SharePoint site. Okay, did you recognize it? Let's try this one. It's being cranky. This is what I get for trying to add just a little bit more to the session. Okay, it's not liking it. Let's try the custom value maybe. And see if it refreshes. There we go. SharePoint list name, travel requests. And Now we can start mapping each of the responses into the form itself. So notice that has submission time here. Let's look for title. Here's all of the form questions that we had, and you can map those into each of the responses. So it will only match the data types. Otherwise, you have to use an expression to convert that data type from one to another. So if I wanted to convert, here's the conversion functions that let you change one data type to another. So a string converts it to a string. So if it comes out as a number and you need it to be a string, or vice versa. All right, so just think about that. Pretty cool stuff. You can map them in, and then even if you want to take it to the next level, you could create a Power BI around that and do a report based on the form responses that people provide to you. All right, looks like Nils wasn't able to answer or access to the form. Hopefully after I fixed it, maybe that worked a little bit better. But thanks for trying to play along with me. It's kind of hard because in the live meetings, I can't see your, I don't get to see how many people are in there and when the questions. So I appreciate you playing along with me. All right, any other additional questions? I know we have one more session, I believe, left today. Is that correct? You're at your end of the day. It's been a long day for you. It's just the beginning of the morning for me. I'm from Colorado in the United States, so it's just the morning for us. All right. No additional questions. I'll give you the rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning back, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you so much. Give you my contact information again. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions after the session. I will also upload my slide deck so you have my contact information from there. I'm all about the demos. I really don't like to live and breathe from a slide deck, so hopefully this will be something to be useful to you later. Feel free to reach out. But so again, I'm Shortcut Shari. It's my job to make your job easier. And thank you again for joining us today for the fabulous event in Germany. I wish I was there with you, and enjoy the rest of your day.